Yeah, so had to rush back quickly to do this, So Thomas Partey, quick updates. Very long day, but I'm going to keep this to 3 or 4 minutes so that everybody can. So bullet points. Thomas Partey was represented by 2 lawyers. Lead lawyer is a woman called Makida Bramwell, and she was assisted by Sanjit Kurana. And the MCI, that's the Ministry of Citizenship and Immigration, which is the defendant in this case, was represented by David Knapp. Now, the judge who sat in was Judge Lafreniere. So, quick things. As soon as the case started, Thomas Partey's lawyers introduced an amended application very, very late. It came last night. It was challenged by lawyer David Knapp for the MCI. The judge ended up agreeing with the Canadian Crown, that is the MCI, on the lateness of the application and the fact that it didn't really change the dynamics and the evidence before him so much. So that was cast aside. Then to the substance of the case, each person was given 25 minutes to make a point. So Makida Bramwell, who represents Thomas Partey, received 25 minutes. So some of the key points that she was looking to make basically was that Thomas Partey not going to being refused a visa to Canada was unfair, considering the fact that the charges that were being labeled against him were charges that were in Canada. Were charges that were in the UK, and that it did not pertain to him coming to the United States to participate in the World Cup, particularly because he did not intend to live in the United Kingdom. He was here to perform a task and then go back to the United Kingdom to carry out his business. He also felt that the visa officer did not look at his entire visa application and that there was an error in the process of coming to the decision, for Thomas Partey not to be allowed entry into Canada. That was basically the substance of her case, that the fact that Thomas Partey's charges were ongoing, that he was not considered a flight risk in the United Kingdom, that he lived in the United Kingdom, that he worked in Spain, that his passport was with him, should all have indicated that, look, this is somebody who has no issues. The fact that these were also charges that a crime was, the court had not yet sat, he had pleaded not guilty. All these things were considerations that should have been made. Now, on the side of the Canadian government, the thrust of their case, all the noise, everything that they are basically saying is that, well, when he was filling his form, when Thomas Partey was filling his form, there was a part of the form that where he should have indicated that there were pending criminal charges in the United Kingdom against him. That piece of information, they didn't make it on to the original visa form that he was filling. Now, Thomas Partey's lawyer's response to that particular issue is, well, my client didn't fill the form himself. Somebody else filled the form for him. And so the absence of the information that there were charges pertaining against him was not deliberate. But the judge took the position that, look, once that information had not been put on the form and Thomas Partey's signature was on the document, the excuse could not be made that somebody else filled the document. That document is his. So that should be held. That was his position on the matter. Then there was a point of reputational damage, and irreparable damage that was also made by Thomas Partey's lawyers, that, look, this case had done a lot of damage to his reputation, and also the fact that on the terms of irreparable damage, this is a footballer who wants to play in the World Cup. If he doesn't play in the World Cup, he will not get another opportunity. In fact, it was interesting that when Thomas Partey's lawyers filed the case, they had indicated that he had not played in the World Cup before. The judge later came back and said, look, that is not accurate. And in fact, the lawyer also for the MCI came back and said, this is not accurate, that this would be his second World Cup, and that, in fact, at the last World Cup, he played 3 games. And so the point of irreparable damage would not hold, especially because he had played in the World Cup previously. And that on the point of reputational damage, if he was found not guilty in the UK, he could also always enter Canada if he so deemed it. So it was on the basis of this that the judge said he had heard most of the cases, because he had gone through all the arguments that were before him. He had gone through all the papers. So he would require time to go and make a quick decision. Thomas Partey's lawyer in summation also said, look, judge, we need you to hurry up for us because time is of the essence for us. He said he agreed on that point, so he would speed things up as best as he could. And she also made the parting point that, look, there were people, artists, musicians, whatever kind of other creative people who had been allowed into Canada with similar situations. And so she felt that there was a good chance to be made for this to happen. So in summation, this is all that happened in court. The decision will come later on. The larger case itself will be published, and I'm sure everybody will get the full reading. But in essence, this is what happened.